Unfortunately, we often criticize and judge people for picking the better of the two evils. Throughout my life, I can look back and realize how I would often judge people and look down upon them for, oh, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're vaping, they're doing this, they're doing that. And throughout the last few years of my life, I've become more aware of this, not only because I often speak to people who deal with these kind of issues like drug addictions and alcoholism and such, but also because I can see that in myself too. Not to that extent, but let's use this as an example. I knew somebody who they used to vape, right? And I would, be a bit judgmental of that, like, this is so bad for you and such and such. But as they started opening up to me more, I realized that the reason they were vaping is because they used to be addicted to drugs. And them vaping kept them from going back to more extreme things. So if somebody used to be on heroin, for example, and now they're drinking alcohol, they're not a full blown alcoholic. They're just drinking alcohol as a way of keeping them from going back to heroin. You can't judge them for that because they're picking the better of the two evils. And if we get honest, we can see this same thing in ourselves too. For example, maybe you used to binge watch Netflix all day, like you was watching 10 hours of Netflix. But now you're scrolling on YouTube Shorts for 30 minutes a day. Still bad, still not good, but it's a much better of the two evils. Yeah, one of them is frying your attention span, the other one is wasting a ton of time, so it's not good either way, but it's the better of the two evils. And we often judge people for what they do rather than thinking about why they do what they do. Because if your life is super painful and you're going through these terrible, traumatic memories, you're paranoid, you're afraid, something bad happened to you, it would make sense for you to want to block out those memories and numb that pain. Maybe numbing that pain for you could look like scrolling on TikTok all day. Maybe numbing that pain for you could be overeating, it could be oversleeping, it could be a ton of things. But if the thing you're doing now is healthier by comparison to what you used to do, you're picking the better of the two evils and you're making progress actually. But with that intro out the way, I want to say, for those of you who don't know, my name is Lawrence, and I'm a youth empowerment speaker. I've spent the last 4 years specializing in helping teens and young adults build self love, confidence, and a positive outlook on life. In addition, I've also written books, which you can find below. I do one on one consultation with people. And if you'd like to bring me onto your podcast or into your organization to speak there, my email address is also in the description. And this is going to be a bit of a heavy message because I have come across so many people throughout my life who you would look at them and go, they're an addict. They're this, they're that, all of these things that the world and people and society, and if I'm being honest, at a time in my life, I too would have looked down on these people. But a big part of maturing and a big part of having humanity for others is you treat the drug addict as a human. They're addicted to a substance, right? But they're a human still. They may be an alcoholic, but they're a human. They may be smoking crack, but they're a human. They may be doing whatever, but they're still a human. Somewhere in there is somebody's baby. Somewhere in there is little Johnny who's on the playground, or Sarah, or Michelle, or Rebecca, or whatever, running around. Somewhere in that person who has, they feel so lost, they feel so much pain that they resort to numbing themselves, they resort to hurting themselves in some way. It's still somebody's child. And we can look at these extreme examples, but we can also take a look in the mirror and go, you know what? Whenever I get stressed, I catch myself eating that ice cream. Whenever I'm frustrated, the first thing I do is I go scroll on Instagram. Whenever I'm mad, the first thing I do is I go run or something. Like I go run laps around the block. And what you used to do was you would be arguing with the person, you'd be yelling, you'd be fighting, you'd be throwing stuff. So you've made progress. You're picking the better of the two evils. Like, yeah, it ain't good to use scrolling on your phone as a coping mechanism. But if what you used to do was throw hands with people, then yes, go scroll on that phone. I know it may seem like backwards advice, but if this thing you're doing now is better than what you used to do and it keeps you from going back to who you used to be, I would honestly say it is better for you to scroll on your phone than it is for you to go fight people. That makes a lot of sense when you really think about it. And when people are getting judged for how they're trying to deal with their pain, when people are being belittled and dehumanized, and oh, that's an addict, oh, that's an alcoholic, oh, that's this, oh, that's a criminal, oh, that's she just for the streets, oh, that's whatever. Like when we treating people like this, doesn't it shouldn't come as a surprise when we have a ton of people addicted to drugs because nobody gave them human decency. Nobody showed them that, yes, you have this problem. Yes, you have this pain. Yes, you're doing this thing, but you're a human still. You are somebody's baby. You are somebody's son. You are somebody's daughter. You may have gone off the path. You may have resorted to unhealthy means of dealing with your pain, but regardless, you are human. You are worth love. You are worth being treated like something. Like I mentioned this before, but a couple months back, there was this lady by my office, and she was. I didn't ask, but you could obviously look at her arms and tell that she was sticking that needle in her. And she was just sitting there crying, and something in me said, "Talk to her." I've seen her before, but this day something in me just said, "Talk to her. Ask her what's going on. Ask her what she's going through. Ask what's her name." These are the things that people they get walked past all day. And I'm not saying I'm holier than thou. Okay, I'm not saying I'm holier than thou. I'm just saying this is how it went. So I stopped and I looked at her and I like made eye contact, not in like some standing over her and looking down kind of way. No, I like crouched down and just how I'm looking at you right now. I'm like, what's going on? What you going through? And she just started breaking down because I was the first person who like talked to her in weeks. Like I was the first person to talk to her as if she is a person. Not in that pity, oh, I hope it all gets better way. No. What's going on? What's happening? What, like, because I can obviously look at her circumstance and tell that things are tough. But when we judge people, when we look upon them and say they're just this label, rather than letting it be known that they're a human first, it only pushes them deeper into the cycle. So she was telling me about how, nobody helps her and everybody just treats her like she's trash and stuff. And I just had a conversation with her. I didn't even necessarily give her any money or anything because I don't carry cash. But I showed her where like the nearest Starbucks was. She got some water. And you could see the humanity in her eyes. Like you could see under the situation she was in, under all of this, that's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's sister. That's somebody's mother, somebody's cousin, someone's aunt, someone's niece. somebody that's somebody. And the message I want you to get from this video is there's so many things, but the key takeaways are that we need to ask people why, like, why do you do what you do before we judge them for it? Because let's say the person who they're an alcoholic, right? Let's say you meet somebody that's alcoholic, and everybody's like, "Oh, you just an alcoholic. You just this. You just that," and they just keep getting beat down. But nobody ever take the time to ask them what happened. What led you to this? What are you going through that alcohol or that you're trying to numb through this substance? What did you go through? And you might realize that, oh, when they were younger, they got molested. And they're trying to block out these memories because every time they see somebody with a red shirt, it reminds them when they was 3 years old and got touched. That's a pretty valid reason for somebody to be an alcoholic. And who are we to even judge what makes it a valid reason? Because all of us are trying to deal with some sort of pain somehow. It might be junk food. That might be it for you. Like, you thinking, I ain't no alcoholic. I'm not no addict. I'm not this. But every time you mad, the first thing you do, let me get some soda. That might be it for you. And I'm not even talking down. I'm not even saying that I'm better. I'm not. I be doing the same thing. Sometimes when I'm mad, I say to myself, let me get a snack. Let me take a nap. That might be it for you. And you need to understand, how do you deal with your problems? How do you deal with your stress? How are you trying to cope? You know, coping isn't just something that an addict or somebody who's like mentally deranged or crazy or any of that. All of us are coping. It's simply dealing with a problem. That's it. Doing something as a means of dealing with a problem. So be more understanding. And even when you notice, because I noticed it too in myself, you're going to have this like thought pop up that says, oh, look at them. Look at what they're doing. Before you judge what somebody else is doing, before you judge how somebody else is acting, before you judge how somebody else is, take a look in the mirror at yourself. Oh, they drinking alcohol, they vaping, they doing this, they doing that. When I would have that thought popping in my head, the first thing I do is I stop and I say, Lawrence, you ain't no better. Who made you Jesus? Who did that? Because I got my own bad habits. When I'm stressed, first thing I be wanting to do is I want to go take a nap. I want to go get a snack. I want to eat something. I'm not, gorging myself or anything, but it is a way that I deal with my stress. So be more empathetic to people, be more understanding, and give them the freedom to express why it is that they do what they do. Because maybe they don't even know. Maybe they got into a car crash and the doctor gave them the pain pills, one thing led to another, they ended up on drugs. A lot of the time that's what happened. You got in a car crash, you're in excruciating pain. Doctors say take 3 of these, you'll feel better. You take 3 of those, and eventually 3 ain't good enough. Now you need 5. 5 ain't good enough. Now you need 10. And eventually it leads you down a spiral to where now you want heroin. A lot of times that's how it goes. But we often put these boxes on people and we label them and we dehumanize them. And at a certain point in being dehumanized, people will simply say, what's even the point in getting better? Because the world is always just going to call me an addict. Or we look at somebody who's like a repeat felon, like they keep going to prison. At a certain point, they stop trying to get better because they're like, the world is always just going to look at me as a felon, ignoring the fact that the reason why they did that armed robbery is because when they were younger, like let's say it was 10 years old, 12, 14, 15, whatever, they grew up seeing a mom working 4 or 5 jobs, wasn't no food in the house, lights getting cut off, the plumbing was shut down, and toilet ain't been flushed in 3 4 days, so the house stinking, and they growing up and it's bullets flying everywhere and every night. So to them, they just acting off pure survival. So can you blame a kid for robbing a store to feed his family because he grew up starving? No, you can't blame him. But we'll box him in the same label as the dude who robbed a bank just for money. And even with that situation, maybe for him, he grew up not having no money, so he went out and tried to rob for money where the other person was robbing for food. They both had a reason why they did what they did. But we often will throw them in the room with the people who they just do it for a love of the game. They're like, I don't have a reason. I didn't grow up in a bad home. I grew up safe. I grew up with food, water, and shelter. I'm just doing this just because I want to do it. And maybe inside of them, there's something that led them to convince themselves that they're just doing this just cuz. But in reality, there's something operating underneath the surface. And we could go so deep into this because the more you think about it, the more you realize that all of us do something as a better of the two evils. Okay, KFC, McDonald's, and fast food, it ain't healthy for you. You're well aware of that. But it's better for you than eating 10 packs of Snickers and 3 bags of M&Ms. So you eat the McDonald's or the KFC or whatever as a better of the two evils. Like if somebody said, would you rather eat a pound of candy or a Big Mac? Both of them are unhealthy. But the Big Mac is substantially better than the bag of candy. Both of them ain't good, but it's the better of the two evils. And we got to stop pushing people down so low for picking the better of the two evils when in reality we all do it somehow, some way. I hope you got value from this message. If you would like to buy my books, you can find those in the description below. My Cash App if you'd like to donate. My email address if you are a podcast host, school principal, or run a youth focused organization. You can contact me for speaking engagements, or you can book a one on one consultation below where you can get a call with me, get some advice, and I'll help you through whatever you're going through. I'm not a mental health counselor, so be aware that certain things I may just tell you, hey, call a hotline for that. Here's a resource. I can provide you the resources and the information for an Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, but I'm not equipped to help you with anything super substantial. Just keep that in mind. And I hope you like, comment, share, and subscribe.